Hello everyone. Welcome to Eyezone Education's webinar series. Thank you for joining us. Today's topic is career paths for graduating optometry students, to be presented by optometrist, Doctor of Entrepreneurship and data scientist who is none other than Dr. Gilbert Nacouzi. Dr. Nacouzi has over 2 decades of experience in building and managing eye care business models. He is the owner of the Optic Nacouzi, where he practices optometry on a daily basis. He also serves as the editor-in-chief at the Optical Forum. Dr. Nacouzi has published several articles on Eyezone magazine and Eyezone business, discussing topics relevant to succeeding in the entrepreneurship ladder. Today, he expects participants to learn the various opportunities available in the market while navigating through different career paths. In the 40-minute session, he will also highlight additional required and optional skills that could provide a competitive advantage in following or choosing certain career paths, as well as career opportunity exit planning. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Dr. Gilbert Nacouzi.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Gilbert Nacouzi, and I'm speaking to you from Beirut, Lebanon. Here at Optical Forum, the office is in full swing. It is really a great initiative that Eyezone has launched and is making yet another wonderful event. I'm so honored to have this opportunity to present to you today, and I'm being with the wonderful company of eye care leaders like Dr. Ithar Bishtawi and Mushtaq Ahmed. And I hope that Dr. Bishtawi and everyone around her are safe from what has been happening during the past couple of weeks in Gaza. And I want to thank everyone at Eyezone for creating this event, but also for inviting me. Before I start, talking about the presentation and the career paths that 2021 optometry students may take, I would like to talk a little bit about something that I have been working on lately. I have been on a personal mission trying to understand while companies have missions and visions that are well defined in their mission statements and their vision statements, why does the notion of purpose seem to be a little bit underestimated, undermined, and sometimes awkward for them? And what I have figured out is that this is actually an interesting topic that has already started to preoccupy some of the greatest minds in management too, like Professor Michael Porter from Harvard Business School. And at this moment, there is a growing interest and attention on this concept of purpose. And because being able to identify our own individual purpose, as well as understanding the corporate purpose in which we are operating as related to the community we live in, is a sort of creating unity for how to understand what companies should be doing to make sure that they benefit society as a whole. And the topic of purpose is gaining importance in business, but it is also of increased significant importance among college students and optometry students all over the world, specifically during this time of pandemic. And in the same way, for us as established eye care professionals, our own purpose that is defined in a purpose statement is directly related to how and what the role of eye care in advancing society and making progress in our lives truly is, as opposed to what we know as being limited to providing pure medical and clinical procedures. So the concept of purpose is now becoming well known in the developed world and is growing rapidly around the world as it is quickly beginning to gain traction, gain force, and gain momentum. And the purpose of this presentation is to give an idea of what it is that purpose that we have as eye care providers and optometrists outside the realm of clinical care. Where does it fit in the evolution of thinking about the broader societal topic, and how do we do it well? Which is, of course, not always difficult and not a challenging job at all. And I decided to start the presentation with the concept of purpose because I know that every one of you has goals that he wishes to accomplish and achieve, both at the short term and at the long term. You've come a long way working and studying and graduating as part of working on achieving your goals. Your goal is to have a car. Your goal is to buy a large house. Your goal is to live a lavish lifestyle. But very few have yet figured out their purpose early at this stage during graduation. And as you advance in your career, you will certainly and gradually start to find a place for the concept of purpose. And we'll get into more details on that topic of purpose later in the presentation. But now, just keep in mind those comments. And let's jump into the different career paths, and then we will see how we can relate our purpose to the different career paths. Historically, as you all know, the science of optics and vision problems date back to the days of early Greeks. And there is 400 years before Christ, or more than 24 centuries. But the notion of optometry is almost exactly 100 years old, or 1 century. And this notion appeared in America, where opticians for a long period up to the 1900s were limiting their clinical development due to a sort of risk aversion. And the birth of optometry, which came around 1904, came from a group of opticians in New York City who actually lacked risk aversion. Yet they had an entrepreneurial spirit and an entrepreneurial behavior instead. And here it is very important to note that during this specific period of time, New York City was receiving one of the greatest waves of immigrants in the history of America. And those immigrants were mostly from Central Europe. Most of them worked in agriculture, but when they came to America, they worked in services, and they embraced every technological improvement along with an innovative and entrepreneurial spirit. They were able to make great impact on the transformation of their society and country. And Charles Prentice, called the father of optometry in America, whose father also immigrated from Great Britain and was also an optometrist back there, because optometry in Europe appeared a century earlier. Charles Prentice was himself a risk taker. He was the guy who enticed the public to conclude that he had the qualifications that authorized him for a fee for his advice. And at this time, that was really a great risk that an optician could take, or even the greatest risk, because he was threatened with legal actions, and oculists in New York City wanted him to be punished. Besides, that's actually what happened with his colleague Fred Baker from Dallas, Texas, a decade later, who was arrested, fined, and imprisoned for fitting a pair of eyeglasses, and he was charged with practicing medicine without license. You should know that rewards are really high when stakes are high. And as Peter Drucker, the greatest mind in management, used to say, whenever you see a successful business, immediately think of an entrepreneur or someone who once made a difficult and courageous decision. So in order to get great rewards, you need to take risks. If you only think of failures and setbacks, you will not be able to take risks. If you fail, start all over again. But remember that if you don't risk something, you will never win anything. And big rewards come when you take courageous decisions. So optometry itself and at its origins is a case of entrepreneurship. And the first thing that comes in our mind as entrepreneurs or as a career is to be self-employed. And the most common form is private practice as we know it. And private practice pertains to the individual practitioner who takes the role of the entrepreneur, who risks capital to invest in an optometry practice through either established sole proprietorship or a partnership. The capital he invests could be employed to open a new practice from scratch. In that case, it is also called starting. Or the capital could be employed to acquire an existing practice. And in this case of acquiring an existing practice, it depends on two things. First, the ability to stream capital into the project, as well as the market availability for potential or attractive practice sellers. And in a private practice, you are the chief executive officer or the CEO of your own business, where you hire people and you fire employees. You manage and control almost every aspect of the daily operations of the practice. You are free to organize and schedule your time in a way you can see patients, as well as find personal development time for vacation, travel, or for leisure, or to attend seminars. And the progress or the growth in a private practice is usually through investing your extra cash in another practice, usually a second location with the same business model, or sometimes by including associate optometrists in either one of the locations. And associate optometrists, or sometimes they can be co-owners. And those kind of co-owners are in demand, and they are actually specialized in specific areas like contact lenses, vision therapy, myopia management control, etc. And the best way to exit a private practice model is actually to attract capable optometrists to buy at an overvalued price when your time comes to retire. Or in the case of having co-owners, it could be selling to them. And another way is to sell through a leverage buyout type of transactions. And this type of transactions that are very common in private equities. And private equities do leverage buyouts in optometry and other healthcare settings also. And in such LBO or leverage buyout transactions, many sellers do it not necessarily at retirement, but when the market for selling is favorable, and they even remain the CEO or the optometrist in charge of the practice with a certain degree of control over the decisions. And private practice was the most widely adopted modality, and with time it began to slowly lose its attractiveness or its preeminence. And one of the major causes that led to the decrease in the private practice path is the increase in the number of optometry schools that led most graduates to employed positions. And private practice is also becoming an increasingly difficult path, especially lately with the pandemic and online learning and the lack of lab necessary skills and face-to-face experience. The second way or path is employed positions, which is through corporate optometry or optical chains. And employed positions actually attract the largest percentage of graduates. You can enlist in working for an optical chain as an employed optometrist, or in distribution companies as an optometrist, or even as a product specialist. And the positions are numerous, and most optometry school graduates opt for employment positions because of the significant availability of positions and the relative ease of action and high acceptance rate as compared with the professional positions. And eye care professionals choose retail positions as well as being employed at optometrists or even ophthalmologists. and positions offered by ophthalmologists provide great offers and great economic benefits. And those positions are increasing and will continue to increase in the future. However, employment with an optometrist in a private practice setting, even though it is becoming less available, it has the benefit that the employed optometrist may eventually end up joining the practice as a co-owner. And in this situation, this is extremely rewarding compared with working to an ophthalmologist, as you slowly become an owner and you get to choose what to do, and you start getting control and decide over many aspects of the business. Again, those positions are in demand, and they are becoming more and more available specifically to specialized optometrists and for residency purposes. And for those positions, the effect of online learning and the lack of lab and face-to-face experience can be surmounted by the special training that you will receive in carpet optometry. The same also happens in medical optometry, ophthalmology, and specialty clinical care, as well as in education, in teaching, where optometrists opt to teach in optometry colleges or online learning. And there is a field that will continue to grow in the future. Now here, I want to look at more details or try to list what optometrists usually perform in terms of tasks and jobs in different practices. Now, optometrists perform comprehensive eye exams in accordance with what the local regulations allow them to do. The second thing that optometrists do is they are experts at using diagnostic equipments at hand, and they are trusted in taking measurements related to ocular conditions. Optometrists are good listeners. They listen to patients' needs and address patients' questions and concerns about eye health information, as well as prescription information. They record all tests, medical history, symptoms, prescriptions, and patient treatments. Optometrists demonstrate an exceptional product knowledge, and they are able to communicate features and benefits to the patient. The recommendations that an optometrist provides in the testing room increase the motivation of the patient to buy products. Optometrists identify eye health safety factors that could impact vision. They choose the right brands and products and provide the right arguments to commercialize and sell them, allowing themselves to act as representatives for those brands with specific criteria, and frequently they talk to other eye care providers about those brands in events and in seminars. Optometrists participate in optometry events and continuing education sessions. They co-manage cases with ophthalmologists like refractive surgery, cataract surgery. They coordinate referrals for appropriate follow-up as needed. Optometrists do contact lens services like fitting contact lenses, selling contact lenses, and troubleshooting contact lenses. They do dispensing services, optical frames, and other eye health related products. They do low vision services, vision therapy, color blindness services. In parts of the world, if they are allowed to, they prescribe pharmaceutical agents to follow and treat glaucoma patients. They do optical services also, lens edging, lens tinting, lens coating. They perform lens surfacing. They integrate finishing laboratories in their practice because it helps them speed up delivery of the eyewear product. And in education and academia, they do research. They do studies on their own or part of an interdisciplinary research. with a team of scholars. Optometrists work as faculty, professors. They prepare optometry curriculum, and they lecture, they author books, they edit articles, optometry books, practice management books. They serve as editors and editors-in-chief in magazines and journals. They also work as administrative in government and health and public health positions and administratives in universities. And those are the main, if I didn't forget any, the main jobs and activities and tasks that optometrists perform. And among those jobs, some have been affected by the pandemic and by the online experience that prevented a good face-to-face experience. However, many paths were not affected. Moreover, some paths benefited from the increase in the online participation. For example, education and teaching and academia in general. Researchers in education, this is a field that is growing, online learning. And it is also expected to further grow even after the end of the pandemic. In corporate optometry and optical chains, it is still possible. Non-clinical, non-conventional private practices maybe are somehow affected, but entrepreneurship is not. And those who have an entrepreneurial spirit, who were entrepreneurs straight away, are able to find a way to become self-employed, but they will surely not opt for employment positions. If they were somehow business savvy, they know it is going to be hard, but they still want to join the bandwagon because they are risk takers by nature. And for the 2021 optometry graduates, there is a question about how different they are. And the class of 2021 knows something about the pandemic. They have been affected in a specific way that is different from everybody else in the society. And one thing's for sure is that no matter how far they go in their careers, they will always refer to this experience about the pandemic. I think that this will be the most memorable experience of their academic life, and it will surely have a great impact on their approach to eye care. And those students have experienced either 1 or 2 years of blended or completely online and on-campus education. But as we speak, some have already started to work at the commencement. And most schools of optometry have prepared for the 2021 optometry graduation ceremony as an in-person processional or a virtual ceremony. We still don't know if it's going to be more than that for the upcoming years and the upcoming classes. But in all cases, as new graduates enter the market, they will also transition into a career that consists of both face-to-face and online interaction with patients, like telehealth and telemedicine. And those new graduates are well prepared for those settings. The technology adopted for this purpose of eye care has been available for quite some time. They are experiencing it on daily basis, and they can easily blend with the market and with the environment. And there are, however, 3 main concerns that go in their minds. First, the pandemic and its effect. How long will it last? What the damage will be. The second concern is the business environment. How will the business environment have or affect their careers? And the third concern is about the growth. How will they grow in this business environment after what the pandemic has already done? But for all that, optometry career paths that will be offered for those newly graduates may be affected by the pandemic in different ways. Students have learned about the jobs and tasks that we already listed and that they will be performing in the market. However, for me, the message that I am trying to convey relates to how they impact and benefit society. And they have started already to tap on this subject as they went through the pandemic. And the pandemic has had a great impact on all industries and markets around them, including optometry. The disruption caused by the pandemic affected the supply chain as well as the ability to provide care at the patient level. And unlike other pandemics, like the Spanish flu or the plague that passed a couple of centuries ago, in the case of COVID-19, the technology, especially telecommunication advancements, have enabled teleconferencing for all the world and for the students to be able to complete their education. But they are not the only ones to be affected by the pandemic, and teleconferencing has also enabled telehealth and telemedicine for practitioners and healthcare providers. And optometrists already started using it before the pandemic. But since students are becoming more attracted to this kind of technology, they can fit in the market, whereas many others are expected to face hardships or to be forced to leave the market as a result of high overheads that they have in their business models. So the students are well positioned because they still don't have those overheads, and they are well prepared for telehealth and telemedicine. More than that, in what concerns the business acumen and business knowledge, new graduates are aware that the markets are getting more competitive, not just because of the pandemic, but because of other factors. Among those factors are high investments in technology, the saturation of the centers in the cities, and the only available locations for private practice, which are in the periphery. And unless they have a specialty or unless they complete a residency, those high-paying positions, employment positions, are becoming rare. And the education they are getting at optometry college is not enough to solve problems related to career. The education will not serve them to solve problems related to business and to finance. So many students have already started to take courses in management, in business administration, and in entrepreneurship. But the problem here, as we know it, that from all students who take entrepreneurship lessons, only 2% become entrepreneurs. And for those who open private practice in the optometry business, the percentage is a little bit higher than the normal average or the normal percentage in the entrepreneurship. And many students at this stage have come to believe that unless they develop a competitive advantage that is supported and backed by a huge capital, they will not be able to compete in the type of environment that they inherited from previous optometrists and previous factors in the market. And this belief gets even more accepted when students see themselves starting their career with huge debt due to student loans, But the reality is that what the sustainable players and the market incumbents have grown into over the years does not reflect the whole picture of the actual market opportunities. And the eye care competition is running into a market that is smaller than the overall potential market. And unlike other industries, the competition in eye care industry did not succeed to entice the consumer the way other retail industries did. For example, we look at shoes markets and clothes markets, we realize that 100% of the population consumes those products and goods, whereas in eye care, we are failing to provide services to 100% of the population. And there is a gap in this part of providing awareness and trying to educate customers. And many graduates ignore the fact that profit and growth don't come from competing with the incumbents and trying to provide products and services to the incumbents' existing patients. They should, in this case, focus on co-creating value with non-consumption. Again, they are the most prepared and well-positioned to motivate types of consumers that the incumbents have failed to educate. The technology that is available to make this happen is affordable. However, the value lies in the content that only those new graduates are able to deliver. And with the development of the right business knowledge, they can capture tremendous financial gains by using tools like social media to be their fair ground. And for the growth and the profit, like all graduates, optometry students dream of a great career with all the perks that come along: large houses, fancy cars, lavish lifestyle. But in reality, this is only a dream. But at the same time, if they cannot live their dream, they should not become trapped by their fears. That is because uncertainty drives fears. And because of the current recession, they see uncertainty times ahead of them. And here there is one important thing to understand, is that no one should expect to do good while everybody's doing bad. Indeed, there is no reason to even look good in bad times. Instead, you should focus on what you do best. You should focus on developing your core competences, and you should focus on developing a competitive advantage. For example, for new optometry students, they should expect not to apply all the knowledge they have acquired at any moment in time to prove their competitive advantage. I guess most of you are familiar with the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, that dictates that in any given situation, 80% of the results are caused by 20% of the efforts. And by applying the Pareto principle to new graduates, it means that by focusing on the top 20% of the activities, an optometrist can perform much more than the 80%, and they can bring tremendous results. This could be focusing solely on specialty contact lenses, focusing on primary care, comprehensive eye exams, purely optical. And you may ask, how do we apply the Pareto principle for growth? And to achieve your maximum growth and your maximum potential, you have to start by planning for the coming 5 years, not less. You have to think of building a long-term strategy for growth. You can simply write down a list of the tasks that you can perform best. Know that If you want to grow, you will never have to perform all optometry tasks and all optometry activities that you have learned in the university. But make a priority list by order of growing profitability, not the time spent on each activity. So if you spend a lot of time on the same activity, it's not a profit. It is not necessarily a profitable activity. But you have to make this list of most profitable activities and tasks that you perform, and then you subdivide the list into groups or tasks that you want to perform first, second, third. So the most profitable practice comes first, and then the second most profitable practice or activity comes second. You make like subdivisions, and then you apply the Pareto rule. So your list or those activities have to be listed and kept in mind that in a way that only the first 20% of the activities to make the top of the list will be responsible for the 80% of your growth and profit. And once you have identified those 20% of the activities responsible for the 80% of your growth and profit, you copy them on another list that you place on your desktop or somewhere you can reach every day and every moment. And then you apply another rule. We call it the ABCDE rule, or the ABCDE method, which consists of putting letter A, letter B, letter C, letter D, letter E next to each activity by the level of the consequences of completing or not completing this task. For example, an A activity has serious consequences for being completed or maybe not completed. An A activity cannot be delayed, and it should be handled the soonest possible. A B activity has mild or moderate consequences, but also it should be performed. But this B activity can be delayed. It is not that serious, or it is not that urgent. And a C activity has no consequences at all, but it would be nice to perform it. A C activity could be spending time with colleagues, chatting or talking over coffee. A D activity is an activity that is better done if you delegate it to someone else or outsource it, if you don't do it yourself, because you might be wasting your time. But someone else should be doing it. And an E activity, it is a task that you can simply eliminate. With time, as you start identifying the most common A, B, C, D, E activities within your top 20% most productive and most growing activities, you become more oriented to performing activities that have a direct impact on your growth and profitability. And here I want to talk a little bit about the business models and the types of business models and organizational types and designs. A business model, just to know the definition of a business model, it is an outline of how a company plans to make money with its product that is delivered to customers in a specific market. And it makes, or the company generates money by applying its resources into specific processes to get a desired profit formula. And this is a simple illustration that has been employed by Professor Clayton Christensen from Harvard Business School. First, the company creates or provides a value proposition to the customer. Then it looks at its resources and try to figure out what processes are needed to produce those specific products and services, or to reduce expenses or increase efficiency. And then it measures the expected profit. If the profit is not satisfactory or not within reasonable expectations, the company could go through the steps all over again and try to change and play with the different variables, the resources, the processes, the value proposition, and then check again the profit formula. And until it reaches the desired profit formula. Because there are many types of business models, and there are many types of businesses. You can think of many types of business models as well. And as businesses are evolving, new business models are constantly emerging and being changed. But this is the simple concept behind the business model. And those business models are actually, if you think in a more simple way, they are based on the idea in which the simplified solution can always be delivered to the customers in a cost-effective way. Because of that, there are actually, in a, let's say, summarized way, mostly use three types of business models. There are more than three types, but we always think of three types of business models. And each type deals with specific problems, products, and services. And if you try to force a product into a wrong type of business model, you will certainly fail, and your business will be bankrupt. And here again, it is another vital reason why you can't do everything for everybody, and why a successful optometrist have to limit his work at what he does best. And for example, if we take one of the three types of business models, the value-adding business model, it deals with providing products and services that their results are 100% predictable. In optometry, you prescribe an optical frame that provides with absolute certainty the correct vision. And you compare this correct vision with what you have received in the testing room. So you know in advance the value added that you want to add to the customer, or what the customer is paying for. But on the other hand, the problem-solving business model is a sort of solution shop business model, which provides consultancy, which is independent of whether the customer will receive an added value or not. So you don't know if when the patient walks in, you don't know in a solution shop or in a problem-solving business model if you are going to add value to that patient. If you are going, if what you add to the patient will solve his problem. For example, in the eye care business, an OCT will only show if a patient has a retinal problem or not, but it does not correct the problem. In the same way, a topography will only show if a patient has a keratoconus or he does not have a keratoconus. It never corrects the keratoconus and never perfect the patient, or never adds value to the patient current situation. But for us as business modelers, if we mix OCTs and topographies with optical dispensing, for example, as processes in our business model, or in the same business model, that would be completely wrong. And we will never be able to calculate our true profit formula, because the price a patient will pay for any of these procedures will be full of overheads that we cannot eliminate and we cannot explain, and maybe this procedure didn't incur. A third business model is a subscription business model, employed mostly in services that require a subscription, like magazines, CE sessions, continuing education sessions. And there are many types of other business models. A business model could be, we can think of the network business model, where members of the same network contribute content that creates value to other members and to the network itself. And certainly the products created in a business model that is a network business model can never be employed in other other types of business models, like the value-adding business model, or the type of solution or problem-solving business models, or subscription business models. So this is in general about the business models. And here, if we still have time, I want to talk a little bit about some pretty good examples of organizations and companies, as well as individuals or individual eye care providers who are benefiting society at different levels. They are benefiting society at macro levels, they are benefiting society at micro level and at the individual level. For example, a good example of an organization that is benefiting society at the macro level is, you surely have heard about, is Aravind Eye Care. And the Aravind Eye Care have a system in India. Aravind has been featured by the World Economic Forum. It is a multi-million endeavor that is impacting society in a way it is making eye care affordable to everyone. And another example of within the macro or micro level is Johnson & Johnson Vision. You all knew lately that Johnson & Johnson Vision Care have recently announced the FDA approval of AccuView Ability overnight therapeutic lenses for myopia management, which will be available in the market pretty soon, by the end of the year. And they have decided, the way they are impacting society, they have decided to provide with each annual purchase of an Ability product a free comprehensive eye health exam to a child who is in need through Sight for Kids. And Sight for Kids is one of the largest known school-based eye health programs that mobilized Lions clubs, international foundations, and eye care professionals to provide comprehensive eye health services in low income schools around the world. And another good effort from the Johnson & Johnson Vision is also being able to join the American Academy of Optometry and the Association of Schools and the Colleges of Optometry to quickly mobilize, creating an online platform where optometry students could finish out their clinical education requirements after what has been happening in the pandemic. It is called the platform, the Student Online Clinical Case Education Program. It actually allowed students to continue their education and finish out the year without skipping a beat. And another example in the micro level is Vision Spring by social entrepreneur and optometrist Dr. Jordan Casalo. And Vision Spring is a non-profit organization or dedicated to delivering affordable glasses and vision care to the world's poor. And what's interesting about Dr. Casalo is that he also has written a book to help others find their light bulb moment and use their talents for good. And his book is called Dare to Matter, Your Path to Making a Difference Now. And a good life example is what Eyezone is doing here for us tonight. It is another great example how you can impact society and particularly the eye care community in sharing content and transforming the whole globe and the whole eye care community in a small village. So for us, the effort in impacting the society could be at any level. But you should keep in mind that you have to choose a career that is purpose-driven, not just goal-oriented. And you have to let your purpose be the compass or the rudder that controls your heading and your goals.